Hello, this is Dr. Jimmy. It is Wednesday, the 28th of September. This is my second video on my review, my first impressions of Halloween Horror Nights 26 at Universal Studios, Florida. I've talked about the first three haunted houses that I have ranked at number 1, 2, and 3. Ghost Town, American Horror Story, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, what's my fourth house in my preference? The Exorcist. A lot of people put that much higher. A lot of people found it terrifying. Oddly enough, I never found The Exorcist frightening as a lot of people, perhaps because of my evangelical background. I wasn't quite so scared of demons because I felt, you know, if you put your trust in Jesus Christ, that the devil can't really hurt you. You he can't. Since then, I'm no longer an evangelical. I'm an Episcopalian now, so I have a different mass viewpoint, but I don't quite, I'm not Roman Catholic, so the whole idea of demonic possession is not something that bothers me very much. And some people are really freaked by this house. I do believe the power of evil is real, but not necessarily the way it's portrayed in such a movie. A little bit of a side note. Opening of the house is the facade, the house in Georgetown, and it's beautifully done, just like in the movie with the gate. One thing missing: the very classic image at the poster for The Exorcist. Everyone knows that you have the house, and then in silhouette is Father Merrin standing in front with his fedora and his little bag, standing in front of the house. And that's not that. No. In Hollywood, the maze actually has a mannequin or figure of Father Merrin standing in front of the house, so you actually see that as you go into the house. But not in Orlando. I guess they didn't want to obscure the walkway, because you walk right through there, and if you have this guy in the way, you might cause trouble. Now, I want to bring up the Unmasking the Horror tours. Recently, for some unknown reason, there have been different rumors, but I don't believe all of them. Definitely not the one about Linda Blair being upset by it, because there's a selfie of her with one of the mannequins of Reagan that she took when she visited Horror Nights in Hollywood, and so she doesn't seem unhappy about that at all. So I don't think the problem is that. But for whatever reason, they don't want you to take any photographs in any of the intellectual property houses if you go on the Unmasking the Horror tour anymore, which is very odd, because they've always done that in the past, and they did that for a while this year, and then they said, oh no, you can only do it in Ghost Town, which I think is the only original house they take you through for Unmasking the Horror now, because Tomb of the Ancients is too cramped, and Lunatic's Playground's a 3D house. They don't normally do 3D houses for Unmasking the Horror. So most will take you through the IP houses, and the Exorcist one they almost always take you through. You can't take photos, and that disappointed me. I've never done Unmasking the Horror, but this year I was tempted to go ahead and book it, just so I could stand in that archway, and have someone get behind me and take a picture in silhouette in front of that facade, because, hey, this is my silhouette. It looks like Father Merrin a bit, from behind especially. If I was standing there with the hat, and it was all silhouetted and you couldn't tell it was a white hat and it looked black, then all of a sudden be like, ooh, scary, there he is, ready to go in and do the work of God. Yes, so that was what I'd hoped to do, but I can't now because there's no picture, so I'm not going to book it, sorry. Won't ever do Unmasking the Horror, probably, now, ever. I'd never done it before, now I probably never will. So you lost money on this, Universal. You're losing money on this. And I've heard of other people who are cancelling or deciding not to do Unmasking the Horror for this very reason. So, not a smart move. You're losing money. No bit doesn't make any sense if you're losing money to do something that costs you. That's just my opinion of that. But getting back to the house itself, difficult to do a house where most of the action takes place in one room. I personally would have thought they could do all sorts of stuff. They could have scenes in the attic, scenes in that sort of laundry basement where the Ouija board was. They could do scenes in other, the church where the blasphemous desecration of the Virgin statue was. Although maybe that would offend guests, I don't know. But if you're gonna, this house is full of Catholicism. It's going to offend somebody anyway if they're really sensitive about it. And you know, the movie was made with the full cooperation of the Jesuits, who were the advisors and worked on, and some of them actually appeared in the film. Father Dyer and the Archbishop were played by actual Jesuit priests in the actual movie. So it's like, hello, but nevertheless, they tend to stay pretty much in the bedroom. You do have a few scenes in hallways, in between the bed. You go out and go back in. You go out in the bedroom and go back in again. So it's kind of surreal because you keep going back in the same room. There's different action each time. But they do have the spider walk, not as well realized as the maze in Hollywood. I saw the video of that. But it's there. It doesn't quite move. The brilliant thing, though, at the beginning that really takes your breath away, though, is the whole Temple of Pazuzu materializing over the house. It's like the house disappears and there's Pazuzu statues and Iraq. It's like you hear the music. It's like, oh my God, that's an oh my God moment in the house. I really like that. And then it goes through one of those really dark corridors. They scared the fuck out of me when I went through the same other one in Insidious last year. Trouble is, it scared the fuck out of me the first time I went through it. Every subsequent time I knew it was there, it didn't bother me anymore because I know what to expect. And because of that, this year, having done that last year, it doesn't quite frighten me. You go through the dark, there's people touching you, there's stuff hanging in your face. But I suppose if you've never done one of those before, it could terrorize you quite a bit, especially if you're afraid of the dark. Although they've lit it up a bit since then, probably because people keep getting lost in there. Tell you what, going into The Exorcist when it's still light outside, as I had to a couple of times and people I was with wanted to do it, I prefer not to, especially now with these. These are those glasses, you know, they transition lenses, but even still, sometimes they don't turn all the way clear after being out in the bright sun. So I'm going into that dark room, and it's like I can't see shit, and I'm like touching the guy in front of me, with, not on purpose, but you know, because I can't see where he is, and I'm staggering a bit. But and then you have some wonderful moments. You have different things happening in the bedroom where Reagan is possessed. You have the exorcism itself, Father Merrin, you know, putting holy water. There's more of that in Hollywood. They have Karis doing it and stuff flying around the room, and Karis is doing the exorcism, and Merrin later on. So they've added, and so this one lacks a bit compared to that. I watched the video for Hollywood, but they have way too many mannequins in Hollywood and more actors here. So I like this one a little bit better than Hollywood's. But there's some moments in Hollywood that they could have used here. And the whole scene with the Help Me. The Help Me scene is brilliant. That's wonderful. Head spinning is eerie, and the vomit is represented here by she runs out and she pukes in your face, basically. You feel moisture on you, oh my God. And you go through a corridor of bedclothes and mattresses covered with green puke. And it's not just a little short corridor. You're here in a corner and have to keep going through this stuff, and it reeks! Oh my God, it's worse than Evil Dead back in 2013. Oh my, I went through the first time trying to go through, and I could hardly make it through. I almost lost it, almost vomited myself in that room. Every subsequent time, I'm holding my nose because, oh God, I don't think I could help. I tried again the other night, and I had to hold the nose because I wouldn't make it through. Revolting smell. It's powerful horror of the olfactory nature. Oh God, stinkiest, stankiest house ever. Even worse than Evil Dead. Oh my Lord, that alone makes the house quite terrifying in a visceral way. Just grueling to get through that scene, trying to get through the wet, damp clothes. I mean, you do feel damp when you go through that as well. It's like ew, but you don't really have anything on you. But ugh. My friend Charles actually had some pea soup over at Finnegan's before he did The Exorcist house. That's brave. I don't think I could be so bold as to eat pea soup and go to The Exorcist, because then I would lose it right away. And would add to the scenery in a more protein spill way, yes. but it's quite horrific. And then of course you have the final scene. Karras does show up. He's possessed. He's beating the fuck out of Regan. But they changed that. The past couple of times he's not doing that. Maybe someone complained about a man beating up a little girl. I don't know. But then you go sort of with him through the window, and then you go to hell. Don't spoiling the ending here. They do this in Hollywood as well. They have the hell scene, and you're in hell, and Pazuzu rears up as a demonic face, and it's almost like the end of the old Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And it's like, I'm sorry, the ending doesn't do it for me. And that's one of the reasons this isn't higher on my list, because I'm sorry, that's not what happened in the movie. That's not what happened in the movie. Good won in the movie. Regan is no longer possessed. Karras, I'm ignoring the sequels because they're stupid. Karras dies, but he's redeemed. He's absolved for his sins by Father Dyer. Therefore, by Catholic theology, he would go straight to heaven. Or maybe spend a few moments in purgatory, because they still had purgatory back in the 70s. Don't have it anymore. John Paul said no purgatory. He's a saint now, too, so... Yeah. So, he should have been blessed and gone up with the blessed in heaven. And he gave his life to save Regan, so that's actually sacrifice. So that's another reason it would absolve him of his sins. He's not. He's not. He shouldn't be in hell. The devil loses. Pazuzu loses. Regan is saved. Father Merrin dies unexpectedly, doing his work. He's redeemed. They're all redeemed. The only one who loses in this movie is the devil. So actually, going to hell at the end is not right, and especially what they've added recently of having another jump scare of Regan at the very end. Well, I'm sorry, you're telling me she's possessed after the exorcism? What, you're telling me she's been repossessed? Please, that's silly. I don't like the ending. Now, they have a third maze of The Exorcist at Horror Nights in the world right now, in addition to Universal Orlando and Universal Studios Hollywood. Universal Studios Japan and Osaka has the Exorcist maze. I don't know much about that because they do not allow any photography or taping inside the haunted houses, the horror mazes in Japan at all. But my friend Scott Eukin went through it recently, and he said it was brilliant and wonderful, the best one they ever had in Japan. And he says that they handed him the holy water, and he got to do it himself, which is something they would never do here, ever. But I thought, oh my God, it gets interactivity. You get to say, the power of Christ compels you, and do it yourself in Japan. Isn't that fun? So that's, again, something you would never have here. But I thought that was an interesting thing to find out about. So hopefully find out more about the maze in Japan someday. All right, so Exorcist, then is number 4. So what's my fifth maze in my list? Well, that would be, let's see, number 5 is probably Krampus. Yes, it would have been a hell of a lot lower on opening weekend, probably down at the bottom, because it wasn't done at Horn. There was all sorts of empty things, and it seemed like it was left out. It also relies a bit too much on the Dark Elves for the scares. Another thing I object to is the fact that Krampus is not a scare actor. He's only as a static figure. But they do play with that a little bit now, and there's a couple of things we expect him just to be standing there, and something pops out, and it does move at the end a little bit. So and they've added stuff in there, and they've worked on it and added more scenery and music and lights. I've come to like it more and more. Every time I go through, I like it better. But it does capture the movie pretty closely, and we have the Dark Elves, you have the gingerbread men. Oh, they're fun. They are so fun in this. It smells so nice in that room with the gingerbread men. You've got the teddy bear, you've got the Jack-in-the-Box, although not the past couple nights. I don't know why. Maybe it broke and they had to fix it. You've got all sorts of creepy. They got the snowmen. They put some new snowmen in. They only had one the first night. They moved. Now they have 2 together. They've got, after you go through that, there's little inside jokes here and there. Somewhere in the house there is a lolly of jack-o'-lantern that's half eaten, like the one Sam uses in Trick or Treat. I've never seen it myself. Fortunately, before they put the ban, someone got a snap of it during Unmasking the Horror. I don't know where it is. It's on the floor somewhere. But That's a tribute to Michael Dougherty, who directed Krampus, also directed Trick or Treat. But the climax of the house is so brilliant. You go through the vortex, it's the pit, that the ice hole. You go into someone's ice hole? Ew. No, it's like the old polar bear joke, you know. Kick him in the ice hole, yeah. You go into the, through that, and they've fixed that better from the opening. That was just a white tunnel. Now it's got strobes and stuff, and it feels more creepy as you enter the frozen shaft of Krampus. That sounds obscene, but anyway, you go into Krampus's realm. They've got all little snow globes, and it's just so lovely, because if you look at carefully, there's a snow globe with the schoolhouse, there's a snow globe with Shady Brook Asylum, there's a snow globe with Boris Schuster's office in Delancey Street, there's a snow globe with Michael Myers' house, and there might even be more inside jokes. So there's all sorts of things to find and look at. It's quite lovely. In the brief time you have before operations, the flashlights coming, you know, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep, you know, catch up with the person in front of you. I'm a middle-aged man who walks with a bit of a limp. I can't catch up with the teenager running ahead of me. I'm sorry, I can't move that fast. So, you know, stop yelling at me to keep up with the party ahead of me, and stop telling me especially when I'm going in by myself. I often go with other people. When I go in by myself, don't tell me to go 2 by 2, because I'm only one person. I'm not Chance. I don't have a split personality. I can't be 2 people at once. Anyway, I understand why they have to do their job, but at the same time, they don't have to be obnoxious about it, for fuck's sake. They make exceptions so people can't move fast and have a disability, for fuck's sake. You know, I'm going through with a stick, you know, my walking stick umbrella that I use so I don't fall over, and I can't move so fast. Well, you know, make allowances for that, please. But it's a lovely house. Would have liked to see a reindeer, but oh well. Can't have everything, I guess. So that's where that is. Alright, so now we get down to the last 4 houses. Okay. Bottom 4. Let's see, what's left? What's the other one? Let's see. Let me see, I talked about Ghost Town, American Horror Story, Tomb of the Ancients, Texas Chainsaw, and Krampus. So there should be 4 remaining houses. Let's see. And so what are the ones? Did I miscount? Wait a minute. I talked about Ghost Town, American Horror Story, Tomb of the Ancients, Texas Chainsaw, The Exorcist. Oh, I've talked about 6 houses. No wonder I couldn't figure it out. So the last 3 houses, okay? The last 3 houses, that would be Lunatic's Playground, Halloween Hell Comes to Haddonfield, and The Walking Dead. Okay, so how do I... And that's exactly the order I have for those 3. Some people don't like Lunatic's Playground at all and put it as a bottom house. Personally, I rather enjoyed it. It's a fun 3D house. I've always liked the 3D houses. This one is not just camp and funny. It has some gruesome moments as well, but with a bit of humor attached. In the real life scenes where we see Chance killing people, she's doing it with such gleeful joy and torture in rather inventive and amusing ways. I find that quite lovely. And then of course the more surreal areas, some of them are quite creepy. There's a sort of guy he's a mannequin. He's not a scare actor, but he's at one with the wallpaper, and it kind of freaks you out when you see him. And when you look carefully as you go through more than once and see what is going on, you realize there's some fucking dark shit in there. I mean, you know, there's one of the lunatics who's obsessed with Chance spends the time cutting herself constantly, and it's like, holy crap, that's some dark shit. You know, because, you know, self-mutilation, that's nothing really funny at all about that. That's, a lot of people have that problem, and it's like, oh my God. And there's other stuff in there that's equally horrible, and you see people who have committed suicide and hanged themselves, you know, it's like, ooh, kind of disturbing. Also, I have to say, if you're out of work and you need a job, you can apply as a security guard at Shady Brook Asylum. They always need new people there. There's a rapid turnover. I really liked it. There's no real big climactic thing, and you're not quite sure if there's any sort of thing. I was hoping for something that Chance gets out at the end or something, or maybe Jack rescues her. Maybe they're going to plan something like that later. I don't know. But I did enjoy it quite a bit. But what really makes the house for me is the queue. That sounds funny, but the facade with the Cary, Ohio newspaper, I don't quite get that, because as far as I could determine in years past, Shady Brook isn't in Cary, Ohio. It should be somewhere in upstate New York, near the little town of Seneca Falls, from, Home for the Holidays, and also not too far from Mary Agana's practice, which could not have been in Ohio if Boris Schuster was investigating, and he was a local detective from Manhattan. It makes more sense for it to be somewhere, nearby in the. Oh my goodness! What's that? What's that? That's a kitty. That's a bobtail. Yes. Cameo from the cat. I don't know what she's doing, being catty. But getting back to Chance, there's newspaper. There's a video that's going on that will distract you. You want to watch that, of course. And with the glasses on, because it does a 3D effect in the video as well, and it tells you a bit about how Chance was arrested and what's going on there. But at the same time, there's newspaper articles. In addition to one about Chance, there's two other articles, one about the Dogs of War, and one about ultraviolet comics, which of course played a part for Creatures, and and even more so for both Asylum in Wonderland and the in-between in past years. And there's some interesting articles that might have some information that might pertain to future events, because there's a bookshop, an emporium in Cary, that's mentioned in both of these articles. And I don't know if they did that because they plan to have something happen at this bookshop in a future haunted house sometime 2017, 2018, God knows when. But I find that very interesting. I wonder if there's some possibility there. So I really like that, and every time I go by I try to read one. And also they're playing the music. They're playing, if you change your mind, I'm the next in line. They're playing Take a Chance on Me in the queue, and it's a cover version by Rough Silk. It's a metal band, so it makes it, it's not ABBA. It's not Erasure, but it's fun, and I can't help but sing along with it every time I go through that queue. It's fun. So I do like the house quite a bit. So that's why it's number 7. Number 8 for me is Halloween. Hell Comes to Haddonfield. Again, I don't dislike the house at all. It's a great house, but in fact, it might become number 9 because I'm going back and forth between it and The Walking Dead. I like both houses quite a bit, but somehow it leaves me a little more cold than the other houses. I saw Halloween 2 many years ago, and there's just something, I don't know. You start out at the end of the old movie, and then you go through the house, you're in the hospital, and you see Michael Myers coming out at you several times, and various hospital scenes. And there's some moments that are just brilliant. I love the Dumpster Michael. He's also become sort of a fan favorite with some people now, Dumpster Michael. And the ending, maybe I took it too serious. It's going to look like real fire. I don't know. It doesn't quite look like real fire, but it doesn't do it for me as well as Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Exorcist did. Nevertheless, I like the house. It's not bad, but it just isn't as good to me as those others. And maybe it's because it doesn't seem like a worthy sequel to the Halloween house they had a couple years ago. That was done so well. I was expecting something of a similar caliber here. And maybe it's because, I don't know, I was expecting a couple things that weren't there. I was hoping for the little boy in the sailor outfit or pirate outfit with the razor blade apple. I was expecting a couple other things that weren't there. They could have done more in Haddonfield before he get to the hospital. That he kills that old lady, he kills a couple other people. You don't see any of that. You don't see Ben Tramer get hit by a car. I mean, not that they couldn't have done that, but they could have had references to something. You do see the bloody stick on the floor that Jimmy slipped and fell on, although you don't see him. You do see, you know, the hot tub murder. You do see Michael lifting the nurse up with a scalpel like he's in total violation of all the laws of physics. So it's good, and I do like it very much, but, you know, not as much as the others. I did appreciate, though, another shout out to Halloween 3 with the trick-or-treaters popping up again. Trick-or-treat! Yes, I like those. And there's a little tiny shout out to The Purge for some reason, which you won't see because it's too damn dark, but it's in there. It's fun. So it's not bad. And The Walking Dead is currently number 9, but it might become number 8 because it keeps going back and forth with Halloween for me. And I have to say, the only reason this is down on the list is that this is the 5th damn Walking Dead house. But other than that, it's good. It's actually a really good Walking Dead house. It's much better than last year's Walking Dead house. I'm not sure if it's as good as the one they did in 2013. But no, in 2014, the end of the line, which was huge and marvelous. But in some ways, it's my first impression. It reminded me of Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem, which was my favorite house last year. Now, why did it remind me of that? Because it's a retrospective house. Only it's 5 years of zombies and mayhem. Basically, it's all the greatest hits from all previous Walking Dead houses and the Walking Dead scare zones from 2013. In fact, you can go in there and you can identify, oh, this is the Woodlands. The first scene is the Woodlands, right out of the Woodlands from 2013, right down to the same effects used in that. And then you see, oh, there's Bicycle Girl from not the Woodlands, but the Survivors Camp. You know, the RV from Survivors Camp and the tent with the shadows. All right out of that. Next you have Bicycle Girl, as we saw in the Woodlands there by Cafe La Bamba in 2013. Then you have, you know, other scenes that you remember. This is the hospital scene from the first one back in 2012. Then there's the barn from 2012, and also from the scare zone there's the well walker. Oh look, there's little Sophia. That's neat. And then it's like old friends. And so you're going through there, and you have a lot of these scenes. You have the forest with the zombie and the deer right out of the Woodlands from 2013. You've got you have a jail cell, you know, from the houses in 2013 and 2014. You got the guards there. Then they move you up to the most recent season, stuff you haven't seen before, the fall of Arlington, you know, Alexandria, whatever it is, Alexandria, yeah, the fall of Alexandria. So you have that, and you go through the sewer to get there. That's cool. The smell is wonderful in that room. It's not stinky sewage, but it smells like earth and underwater. So that's good. There's very little from last year's house, but quite except for Terminus. You go through Terminus, so you have that, and then you know, the next that's a really good scene from Terminus. And then you go through the scene in the and you go through of course you go through a Woodbury scene where you have the governor's secret room and Penny. So you got that, but you know, the new season is represented primarily by the wolves attacking Alexandria, which is brilliantly done, and then you end up going into the forest. Now, this is not the forest that it's the same forest effect they had in 2014, but this is redressed to be from the most recent season. So you're in a forest full of zombies, but you also keep hearing that whistle, that. And Bob is looking up because she thinks I'm whistling at her. And just as you exit, there's a nod to the final scenes of the most recent 6 series with, you know, you get to see Lucille. You don't see Negan, but you do see Lucille. So you know someone's been bashed in the head with that baseball bat, and who is it? We still don't know. We'll find out next month when the 7th series starts on AMC. So, as greatest hits of The Walking Dead houses in the past, it really works. And of course the rumor permanent Walking Dead attraction may come to Orlando. They might very well, this house might be a prototype for that, because they could recreate a lot of the scenes that are in this house for a permanent attraction. Of course, I had some other stuff to make it even more exciting, you know, fire, and it could be quite wonderful. All right, so I finished then ranking all 9 houses my impressions. On part 3, I'll go into scare zones.